I want to talk about the shofar today. It's such a big Jewish symbol. I would say a shofar is right up there with a Magen David as a symbol of Jewish culture and tradition. I want to just explain the significance of the shofar and why we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And to do this justice, I would need somewhere between 100 and 200 hours, which I don't have. So I'm going to just share some ideas. I can't even say these are the best ones, but these are the ones I'm sharing today. The shofar's origin and the requirement to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah is actually in the Torah. It's in fact the only tradition that the Torah tells us to partake in on Rosh Hashanah. It says blow the shofar. So that means it's got incredible significance right there. But it also means that if the Torah says it, there's a right way and a wrong way to blow the shofar, at least on Rosh Hashanah. So believe it or not, the way we breathe when we blow the shofar, the length of the notes are all very, very significant and very, very deliberate. And just to blow a horn does not constitute the blowing of the shofar. So many people may own a shofar and may even be able to get a sound out of it, but that doesn't mean that the mitzvah of shofar has been done. It just means the musical instrument, the shofar, has been played. Now, it's interesting that I use those words, the musical instrument, because one of the things about blowing the shofar is that we don't try to play it. We don't play tunes. We actually go for very plain, crisp notes. Some people like to stylize it and make it a bit more musical and a bit more of a whine that starts low and picks up and drops. But we're actually not supposed to do any of that. It's a very, very simple process that is very precise in its timing. And there's a lot of meaning and significance into all that, which I'm not going to delve into. I just want to talk about the fact that there are those specific details. So what does it represent? So the shofar is a cry from within. That is how mysticism and Talmud explores the shofar. It is a cry from deep within, and just as you take this deep breath, that comes deep from your diaphragm and all the way up, and then you eventually emit the sound. So to a cry starts very deep and it builds up, and the different sounds that the shofar makes represents the different types of cries, that long wail, the sob, and the uncontrollable hysterics. And the crying is not necessarily sadness, it's a release of emotion. I'm sure you've had moments that you were very emotional and crying, but not necessarily sad. And that's what the shofar is. It's a deep expression of emotion. A shofar has to come from a kosher animal, but it can't come from a cow. And that's because the cow is a symbol that goes back to the golden calf in the desert. And so we traditionally will use ram's horns and things like that. But they can come from other animals, provided they are legitimate horns and not a bone that's growing out. So horns and bones are different to one another. So the shofar is an interesting thing because it once was part of a living animal, but now that it's a horn, it's actually a dead, inanimate object. And that actually brings two different elements of the universe, the inanimate as well as the animalistic, the animal aspects together into this single moment. When we blow it as a conscious human being, we are fusing consciousness, we are fusing time, because there's a specific time to blow. We are taking animal, we are taking inanimate objects, and we're fusing them all together for something that is very spiritual. And I want to come back to that in a moment. We all have an animal within us, that very predictable behavior, the part of us that preserves our living. You know, it's the part of us that makes us go and eat, to go and find partnership. It's what motivates us to do the things that are going to preserve ourselves. But that part of us can be quite unrestrained and can be rather animalistic. And so the shofar is going to speak to that part. But we are also rather inanimate, because what happens once life leaves us? We're just a corpse. We are no different to the rocks or the soil of the earth. So we actually relate to the shofar in that sense as well. We're alive because we have a soul. That soul is flowing through us, but that soul could easily depart. And so there is this interesting idea, the breath of life within us and the breath that emits the sound of the shofar. Now, you'll be like, and this is what I want to come back to. Well, Menachem, that's nice. You said that it's got the space element, the time element. It's a physical texture. It's being utilized by a human being with consciousness and spirituality. But so is matzah. So is a Torah scroll. So is tefillin. So are candles. I mean, pretty much all mitzvot have all these different dimensions to them, and why are they any more or less spiritual than a shofar? And the answer is very good. When we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, it channels an energy of existence into this world, because what we're saying is we take physical objects and we want to transform them into spiritual objects. We want to make the things in our life a part of a spiritual consciousness, a spiritual service. And that is what Divrei Tachtonim is. It's about taking this physical world and turning it into a meaningful place where everything has purpose, everything has a soul, everything is dignified, everything has the godliness within it.